In the quiet town of Ephrata, Washington, nestled against the calm backdrop of rural America, an unspeakable act shattered the innocence of a community. A 13-year-old boy, Craig Sorger, full of life and brimming with potential, was found brutally murdered in a local park, a place where children were supposed to feel safe. But what made this tragedy even more chilling wasn't just the brutality of the crime, it was who was responsible. What drives two young boys, barely teenagers themselves, to commit a crime so heinous? Was it a moment of impulsive rage, or something far more sinister? Stay with us as we unravel the shocking twists, the haunting testimonies, and the chilling aftermath of a crime that continues to raise questions to this day. This is the story of Craig Sorger's tragic end and the darkness that hid in plain sight. Craig Sorger was a boy who touched the hearts of everyone around him. At just 12 years old, Craig was known for his kind and gentle nature, a beacon of warmth in his small, close-knit community of Ephrata, Washington. Though he had autism, it never held him back from embracing life with enthusiasm and spreading joy to his family and friends. Craig's parents, Marie and Dawn, adored their son. To them, he was the light of their lives, a boy who loved puzzles, playing outdoors, and building connections with others in his own unique way. In their quiet neighborhood, where children often roamed freely, and neighbors felt like extended family, the Sorge family felt safe. Among Craig's peers were two boys, Savoie and Jake Eakin. At first glance, they seemed like ordinary kids, classmates who occasionally hung out at the park or explored the wooded areas near their homes. On that fateful day, in February 2003, Evan and Jake invited Craig to join them for an afternoon of fun. It seemed innocent enough, just three boys spending time together in the quiet town of Ephrata. But what began as an ordinary afternoon would soon descend into a nightmare that no one could have anticipated. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the small town, Marie Sorger began to feel an ache of unease. Craig hadn't come home. It wasn't like him to lose track of time, especially when it got dark. Marie called around, hoping to hear that Craig was still playing with friends. That's when she learned that both Evan Savoie and Jake Eakin had already returned home, calmly playing video games as if nothing had happened. Their responses to her questions were vague, brushing off any knowledge of Craig's whereabouts. Her motherly instinct told her something was wrong. This wasn't just a delay, something felt off. Panic began to set in. Grabbing the phone, she dialed 911 and reported her son missing. The search began quickly, with local officers combing the park and nearby trails under the beam of flashlights. It didn't take long before one officer stumbled upon a chilling discovery. There, in a pile of leaves near a quiet, secluded trail, lay Craig Sorger's lifeless body. The brutality of the scene was overwhelming. A large rock and a broken tree branch stained with blood lay nearby, the gruesome instruments of an unthinkable attack. The peaceful innocence of Ephrata had been shattered. And as investigators pieced together the horrific scene, they began to realize the truth was far more unsettling than they could have imagined. What truly happened that day in February 2003 was nothing short of horrific, a nightmare that defied explanation. As the three boys wandered deeper into the park, their playful energy took a dark and sinister turn. In an unprovoked act of violence, Evan Savoie picked up a large rock and dropped it onto Craig Sorger's neck. The force was devastating, but it didn't stop there. Fueled by something unimaginable, Savoie continued the assault, plunging a knife repeatedly into Craig's chest and torso. Meanwhile, Jake Eakin joined the vicious attack. Grabbing a broken tree branch, he began striking Craig's head and legs, each blow adding to the brutality of the crime. The sound of the impacts echoed through the silent woods as the two boys unleashed unimaginable violence on someone they had once called a friend. Craig, defenseless and outnumbered, never stood a chance. The violence was methodical and merciless. When it was over, the two boys fled, leaving Craig's broken body hidden beneath a pile of leaves. The quiet park, once a place of safety and play, had become the scene of a monstrous crime, one that would leave an indelible scar on the small community of Ephrata. February 18, 2003, just days after the brutal murder of Craig Sorger, the shocking truth unraveled. Savoie and Jake Eakin, both just 12 and 13 years old, were arrested and charged with the crime that shattered their community. But this was no simple case of adolescent mischief gone too far. The depths of the boys' darkness were soon revealed when investigators discovered a chilling piece of evidence, a journal written by Jake Eakin, ominously titled Sniper. In it, Eakin idolized and supported the infamous 2000 DC sniper attacks, an unsettling glimpse into his fascination with violence. As the investigation progressed, more evidence emerged. A year later, the knife used in the attack was discovered, discarded near a riverbank, a silent witness to the horrifying events of that February afternoon. Both Savoie and Eakin were charged with first-degree murder, and the decision to try them as adults sent shockwaves through Washington state. In February 2005, the Washington Supreme Court upheld this decision, marking the two as the youngest murder defendants in state history. But as the trial loomed, the story took an unexpected twist. In a moment of reckoning, Jake Eakin confessed to his role in the murder. In exchange for a reduced charge, he pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and testified against Savoie. For his cooperation, Eakin was sentenced to over 14 years in prison. Savoie, however, denied the accusations. In 2006, he was convicted of first-degree murder and handed a 26-year prison sentence. The verdict offered some measure of closure for Craig's family, but it left Savoie's mother outraged. She publicly criticized the decision, claiming her son's trial was riddled with flaws. And in 2011, her persistence bore fruit. Savoie's conviction was overturned due to trial errors, forcing the case back into court. In 2013, Savoie ultimately pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, and in 2014, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison, a decade after the crime. Despite their punishments, the scars of this case linger. Two boys once seen as typical children became symbols of unimaginable violence, their actions leaving an indelible mark on the town of Ephrata, on Craig Sorger's grieving family, and on the state of Washington.